So I was watching Bill Maher earlier. He made this funny joke last night about Congress having fights on the floor. We've never seen that, blah blah blah. And that's it's dumb on its face. It's dumb on its face because we have had that on the floor a few fucking times. Um and it was not just during the Civil War times in the 1860s. It was during the founding of this country. Um it's funny because Americans like to think that we are better than everyone else. And the fact of the matter is we've all gone through our growing pains and we have still more growing pains to go through. So, I'll read you this passage. This comes out of the Philadelphia Aurora, where this channel gets its name from. The Philadelphia Aurora was a Democratic Republican newspaper that was started in around 1775. And the founding father, Benjamin Franklin, had already fallen out with John Adams and with George Washington and the Federalists because he felt like the centralization of power was something that was harmful to the people. So, I digress. I'll read you this section. This makes me laugh because we have gone through this before. So, fracas in the House. About a quarter past 11 o'clock, after prayers, whilst the Speaker was in his chair, Mr. Griswold, that would be Roger Griswold of the Federalist Party from Connecticut, entered the House and observing Mr. Lyon, that would be Matthew Lyon, the Republican from Vermont. Observing Mr. Lyon in his place, who was writing, he went up to him with a pretty strong walking stick in his hand, with which he immediately began to beat him with great violence. At length, getting behind the speaker's chair, Mr. Lyon, Matthew Lyon, snatched up the tongs from the fire. The combatants then closed and came down together upon the floor, Mr. Griswold being uppermost. The members of the House got round the parties and separated them, but not before Mr. Lyon had aimed a blow at Mr. Griswold's head with the tongs, but which he parried off. Remember that even though we have certainly been a more peaceful democracy in the last 150 years, we have not always been a peaceful democracy. We have not always dealt with things by discussion or by having dialogue. And the greatest upheaval in our history within the United States of America was the Civil War, where we had people from the Confederacy and from the Federation who disagreed upon the governance of these states. At some point, the North decided that slavery was not economically viable. And let's be very clear about this. They did not get on a high horse about slavery because it was about what's good or what's bad. That didn't play into it because at that point in history, anyone that was not white, and specifically anyone that was not basically British in descent, was considered subhuman, less than. Even my people, the Irish. And I have to say, it's kind of funny to see that people who don't know their history will spout off about things that they just don't understand. I urge you to go learn more about the foundations of this country. Go learn more about the upheavals in this country because they are telling. They are very telling about where we are as a society. Right now, people are afraid that we're going to have another civil war. And I think that's a valid concern. Um, there is a great amount of violence out in the public right now, and it is troublesome, to say the least. That being said, just because it looks that way does not mean it is that way. We can have dialogues with one another. All you have to do is listen to the person with the opposing opinion. I am not a Democrat. I am not a Republican. I'm a realist. And I understand how the world works around us. I'm not saying that you don't necessarily. I am only saying from my perspective, I understand how this works. We cannot move forward as a society without dialogue. And at times, those dialogues turn into violent confrontations because there are people who are unwilling to listen. And it begs the question, do you want to be one of those in history that goes down as a fool and a liar? Or do you want to go down in history as someone that took the time to hear what they were saying and to push the cart of freedom forward? We are better than that. We can be better than that. It's a choice. It is all about freedom of choice. You don't have to be Christian to believe that. You don't have to be Muslim to believe that. You don't have to believe in God to believe that. You simply need to be a human that looks around you and understands, wow, other people do things and sometimes I don't like them. Sometimes people will do shit you don't like. A story from my own past. I was once in a country band. I'm no longer a part of the country band, but that band is the Jacob Christopher Band. And my singer, of course, Jake, he and I were coming out of a bar one night. We just got done playing, and we were just taking a stroll down the block trying to sober up a little bit, where it kind of he says, "Hey man, somebody's walking up on us." And I blew him off. And what is so absolutely funny about it is that he was right. Somebody was walking up on us. And in that situation, he managed to get himself away before it became a bigger situation. I was there at the end of a gunpoint. And I remember being worried that it was the last thing I was going to see. And so I emptied my pockets. I gave the man everything, even the Swiss cake roll that was in my back pocket. What's funny to me is that 2 to 3 years later, I actually met the same man. He worked at the same company that I worked for. We worked at a landscaping company, and I met him at a company barbecue. And it was really funny because I didn't think about it until then. And I leaned over and I said, "I recognize you from somewhere else." And he said, yeah, you do. And so we decided we were going to walk around and we were going to bury the hatchet away from everybody else, but still, remaining open in dialogue and still where we could both see so that neither of us was at risk of attacking the other. What was funny about that is that I actually ended up befriending them. My friend Ryan, who unfortunately is serving time, although currently he's serving time for an injustice that was done upon him. and it's not for a legitimate reason. You don't have to hold these things against one another. We can be better. It's all a matter of choice. It's all about deciding who you want to be in your heart, in your spirit, in your soul. Don't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. Have a good day.